I knew something was wrong the second I saw the subject line. Urgent, offsite. My boss, Derek Sandler, never used caps unless he was trying to sound powerful or cover something up. I was halfway through finalizing the quarterly audit deck when the email hit like a slap across the face. Hey Morgan, something came up. I've got an urgent offsite with an investor lead. You've got the board slides covered, right? Appreciate you stepping up. Stepping up. That phrase alone made my eye twitch. Derek once forwarded my own spreadsheet back to me with the note, "Nice work, team." The man had never lifted a finger besides pointing at the person he planned to steal credit from. It was 7:42 p.m. The board meeting was 9 o'clock a.m. sharp the next day, and he was vanishing into corporate fog without warning. Not bad timing. Sabotage. I stared at the screen, jaw tight, chest hot, like that moment after someone slams a door in your face and you can still hear their footsteps walking away. He always did this, slipped out before things got hard, and left me holding the grenade with the pin already pulled. We'd worked together 6 years. Worked together, meaning I built every audit deck, every quarterly report, every clean number that kept the lights on, while Derek strutted through boardrooms with his tie half loosened like some financial cowboy. He called himself a big picture guy. Translation: he made vague promises and dumped the real work on whoever wouldn't fight back, usually me. I kept my head down, thinking that was how you win in corporate America. You grind quietly until someone notices. Spoiler, they don't. Especially when your boss makes sure your name's buried 3 bullet points deep under his. I wasn't angry yet. Not really. Not until I reread that email a third time. Urgent offsite with an investor lead. It was too neat, too vague. And Derek hated investor meetings. He once called investors spreadsheet vampires. Why would he volunteer to run one solo the night before our most high-stakes board review? I opened the corporate travel portal. No trip logged. Strange. Derek filed every little expense, always last minute, usually just before midnight. I checked his Outlook calendar. It said, personal. Oh, now we were getting somewhere. By 9 o'clock p.m., I was knee-deep in something I didn't mean to start. I pulled up 3 months of travel reimbursements, not because I suspected fraud yet, but out of spite. Maybe I just wanted receipts when Derek's absence turned into an executive eye-roll fest. That's when I saw it, 2 weeks ago, a client onboarding dinner in Sedona, Arizona. $483.90 at a Serenity Canyon couples retreat. My eyebrows shot up. I opened the PDF. The receipt mentioned a couple's hot stone massage. Client name, Derek Sandler. Companion, Rachel Marks. Rachel, as in Junior HR Rachel. My stomach dropped. Suddenly, this offsite sounded a lot more like a getaway. I made a new folder and started dragging receipts into it. Not because I had a plan, but because something inside me finally whispered, enough. The next morning, half an hour before the board meeting, I stood in the break room, choking down a cup of coffee that tasted like despair and burned filters. I hadn't slept. Too busy replaying that receipt in my head, the couple's spa package, the names. Then Hannah from marketing walked in, oat milk in hand, voice loud enough to carry across time zones. So, I think Rachel from HR went on a trip with Derek, she said casually. My pulse spiked, but I didn't flinch. Oh? I asked, cool as ice. Yeah, Hannah said. I saw her Instagram story before she deleted it. 2 wine glasses clinking on a balcony, tagged, #retreat, wine, weekend kiss. Then poof, gone. She's marked oh now, and no one knows why. She shrugged. To her, gossip. To me, confirmation. I finished my coffee, muttered something about deadlines, and went straight to my desk. Not to rehearse my slides, but to open the PTO system. Rachel's vacation request was filed 5 days ago, but time-stamped as if it was filed weeks earlier. A backdate override. Someone had faked the timing. No travel reason, just personal. I opened the finance inbox where hotel booking confirmations get auto-forwarded. There it was. Serenity Canyon Retreat. Guest, Rachel Marks. Guest 2, Derek Sandler. Same arrival, same checkout, same luxury spa from the receipt. My heart didn't race this time. It just steadied, like finally seeing the mold behind the wallpaper you'd always suspected. And I remembered exactly what Derek once told me when I'd asked about a senior role opening. "You're great, Morgan. Just a little too serious. We need leaders who can connect." Connect. Right. Turns out, Derek was connecting plenty, on the company dime. I remembered laughing that day, pretending to take his feedback with grace. Then I went to the restroom and dry-heaved over the sink. What he meant was obvious. I wasn't 25 and giggling in his doorway with a draft budget in my lap. I was the one fixing his errors while he charmed the board. For years, I told myself I could outwork that kind of man, make myself indispensable. Turns out, being indispensable just means you're invisible until the day they need a scapegoat. I stared at the screen. Derek's name, Rachel's name, the Sedona Spa, the backdated PTO, the $210,000 in client travel. Suddenly, it all reeked of something rotten. But this time, I wasn't swallowing it. I wasn't going to keep pretending it was fine while Derek played corporate Romeo on company funds. I hit print. 17 pages. Every suspicious charge, every trip, every meal. I stapled it all with a calm so sharp it almost scared me. Then I opened my PowerPoint deck and added a new slide at the end. Executive Expense Anomalies, Q3. No drama, no color, just data. And for the first time in my career, I wanted someone to ask me about it. I spent the night at my desk, powered by 2 Red Bulls and a decade of suppressed fury. I combed through his reimbursements line by line. At first glance, nothing screamed fraud. But then I started seeing patterns. The word summit appeared over and over again. Investor Summit Tampa, Growth Summit Napa Valley, Strategy Summit Sedona. We only hosted 2 official summits last year. Derek skipped both, claiming food poisoning. So what the hell were these? I dug deeper. The vendors listed were all wrong. GSD Consulting Group, Echo Point Ventures, Northridge Synergy. None existed in our approved supplier list. The merchant codes were tagged as hospitality, spa services, or entertainment. One charge in Vegas was even categorized under team building for $693 at something called the Velvet Chain. I Googled it, an adult escape experience. The receipt literally said handcuff rental. My jaw locked. I pulled every expense tied to his corporate card across the last 12 months. Scottsdale, Napa, Key West, Vail, Sedona, Asheville. Each location sounded like a travel influencer's bucket list. The total? $210,480, $71. Filed under client development and investor onboarding. I sat back, my screen glowing like evidence in a courtroom. Derek wasn't just lazy, he was robbing the company blind, and getting away with it because he wore nice suits and said words like synergy. The next morning, when the office was still quiet, I printed everything again, clean, labeled, color-coded. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, but I knew who could help me make it count. Ben Carlson, internal auditor, mid-50s, perpetually unimpressed. The kind of man who lived by rules but knew exactly how to bend them. 5 years ago, I saved him during an asset depreciation mess that almost triggered a federal fine. He told me then, "If you ever need me, Morgan, I'm there." Today was that day. I walked into his office and shut the door. He looked up from a stack of vendor contracts, glasses crooked, coffee half drunk, and said, "Well, someone finally pissed you off enough." I slid the folder across his desk. No words, no preamble, Just 17 pages of quiet nuclear potential. He flipped through the first few pages, muttering as he went. By page 6, oh no, this idiot. Page 11, you've got to be kidding me. By the last one, he dropped his pen and leaned back. Morgan, this is embezzlement. I didn't say anything, just let the silence breathe. He tapped the folder, sighed. 200 grand of company funds, fake vendors, falsified receipts, and a side of romance. What the hell was he thinking? That no one would look, I said. Ben chuckled, humorless. They never do. Guys like him think policies are for other people. He flipped another page, squinting. Rachel Marks? Yep, she's in on it. Backdated PTO, shared bookings, photos to prove it. He rubbed his temples. Christ. Serenity Canyon Retreat. That's a midlife crisis resort if I've ever seen one. I almost smiled. Then Ben straightened. You taking this to legal? That was the plan, I said. Unless you've got a better one. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. If you go to legal now, HR gets it. They'll do a quiet internal investigation. He'll resign to spend more time with family. Maybe she gets promoted. You want justice or results? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He saw the answer on my face. You're running the board presentation tomorrow, right? I nodded. He smirked. Then bury it. Slide deck. Data only. You don't accuse. You just let them see it live. I felt my pulse steady, not from fear, but from clarity. He was right. Slide 17, I said quietly. Ben grinned. You already numbered it? Cold. I shrugged. You taught me well. He handed back the folder. I'll prep a shadow audit, mark it as part of a quarterly anomaly check. If anyone asks why this wasn't escalated sooner, I'll say it needed full board visibility. Won't that blow back on you? I asked. He waved it off. Morgan, I've survived 3 acquisitions, 2 CFOs, and 1 CEO who thought EBITDA was a yoga pose. I'll be fine. We locked eyes for a moment. No dramatic vow, no handshake. Just 2 people who understood exactly what they were about to do. You know this might get ugly, he said. I'm counting on it. That night, I stayed late again. The office was empty, the hum of the HVAC and flickering exit sign my only company. I rebuilt the audit deck from scratch, slide by slide. Financials, margins, forecasts. The same sterile rhythm the board expected. But at the end, buried in the data minefield, waited slide 17. Executive expense irregularities, Q3. No red flags, no bold fonts, just cold numbers formatted like the rest. Dates, vendors, receipts, total. A spreadsheet with teeth. April 18th, Echo Point Ventures, LLC. Investor session, Napa Valley. Hotel Casaga Spa. 1,180.60. Guests, D. Sandler, R. Marks. June 3rd, North Ridge Synergy. Client Outreach, Sedona. Serenity Canyon Retreat. $1,695.30. Notes. Couples Stone Massage, August 22nd, GSD. Consult Group. Summit Planning, Key West. Ocean View Suites, $1,487.76. Airline ticket, Passenger 1, D. Sandler. Passenger 2, R. Marks. Each item hyperlinked to the receipt, each one traceable. At the bottom, total non-authorized reimbursements identified, $210,408.71. Beneath that, in small italic font, I added one line. Shall I continue? No commentary, no accusation, just evidence. I saved the deck under a deliberately boring name. FY23 Q3 Audit Final V2 TPTX, and backed it up twice, once on a private drive. Then I stared at the screen until my reflection blurred. Tomorrow, the truth would finally walk into that boardroom wearing my voice. Morning came sharp and bright, too clean for what was about to happen. The boardroom smelled like money and nerves, oak polish, espresso, and tension disguised as professionalism. I walked in 5 minutes early, hair pulled back, gray blazer, low heels. No theatrics, just precision. All seats were filled except Derek's, of course. The CFO, Carter Holmes, was flipping through the printed deck with the expression of a man expecting boredom. Across from him, Vice Chair Reynolds tapped a Mont Blanc pen against his folder. Legal counsel, Deborah Lee, already had her laptop open, typing notes before I even began. And at the head of the table sat Chairwoman Meredith Hargrove, a 60-something former litigator whose stare could slice through granite. I connected my laptop to the projector, inhaled once, and said evenly, "Let's begin. Slide 1, revenue, up 9.3% year over year. Slide 2, operating costs, typical seasonal bloat. Slide 3, retention metrics, slight dip, explainable." My voice stayed level, calm, measured. Years of presenting for Derek had taught me exactly how long to pause, where to emphasize. I didn't over-explain, didn't fidget. Each line was deliberate, almost surgical. By slide 6, Carter finally looked up and nodded, distracted but satisfied. Perfect. I wanted them lulled. Numbers have a rhythm, steady, hypnotic. You build their trust with patterns so that when you break it, the sound hits harder. Slide 9. Capital expenditures, Derek's domain. I saw Carter frown faintly, his thumb pausing mid-page. Slide 11. Marketing spend. Per VP Strategy's request, I said, we increased allocation toward growth-facing events. However, those events have yet to yield measurable ROI. A subtle note. Legal's pen sped up. I caught it in my periphery and kept going, slide after slide, the calm before the fall. When I hit slide 14, Chairwoman Hargrove leaned forward. "And where is Mr. Sandler today?" she asked, voice smooth but heavy. "He's on a trip," I replied evenly. His words were urgent off-site investor meetings. Her eyebrow arched. "During a quarterly audit?" "Yes, ma'am." My tone never wavered. Around the table, glances flickered. They didn't know it yet, but I'd already laid the dynamite. Slide 16, risk and anomalies. My heartbeat slowed to a measured count. I clicked once. The projector hummed. Slide 17 glowed to life. The air in the room shifted, almost imperceptibly, as the slide came into focus. Title: Executive Expense Irregularities, Q3. Subhead: VP Strategy Reimbursement Analysis. The table appeared sterile, corporate, like any other. Until the numbers began to register. Dates, vendors, amounts, locations. Beneath the company logos, small hyperlinks blinked. Receipts, flight itineraries, hotel invoices. The total glared from the corner like a quiet scream. $210, $80, $771. No commentary, no color, just proof. The silence that followed was immediate and absolute, the kind that makes you feel every heartbeat in the room. Carter froze, his fingers tightening on the paper. Deborah's pen hovered midair. Vice Chair Reynolds leaned forward slowly, his glasses slipping down the bridge of his nose. And Meredith Hargrove, sharp, composed, leaned in until her reflection filled the screen. "Excuse me," she said, voice low but steady. "What are we looking at here?" I met her gaze, calm, professional. Slide 17 details non-authorized reimbursements submitted under VP Strategy's expense account over the past 4 quarters. Each item is linked to supporting documentation for verification. Carter swallowed. "You're saying these weren't approved?" Not by finance, not by procurement, and not by legal, I replied. Several vendors are unregistered. Others correspond to leisure or hospitality services inconsistent with company policy. Meredith's expression tightened. And the guest listed on these receipts? Rachel Marks, HR associate, I said simply. A few gasps echoed, quiet but audible. Deborah flipped pages, scanning fast like she was trying to catch up to the train that had already hit her. Carter's face drained of color. Jesus, he whispered. Meredith didn't move. And where are they now? I clicked the small thumbnail at the bottom of the slide. A Delta itinerary appeared. According to this, Mr. Sandler and Ms. Marks checked in this morning on Flight 2155 to Cabo San Lucas. They landed 37 minutes ago. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. No one spoke. You could hear the soft hum of the HVAC, the rustle of paper, the faint click of Deborah's keyboard as she muttered, "Holy hell." Carter exhaled, a long, broken sound. He expensed a romantic vacation during the audit? Filed under Investor Engagement Tier 2 markets, I said. Meredith's jaw set. Can this be verified immediately? Already is, I replied. Every source file is embedded. Flights, hotels, meals. Timestamps align with Rachel's HR out-of-office log to the minute. Deborah shook her head slowly. This isn't just policy violation. This is fraud, falsified reporting, and conflict of interest rolled together. Meredith's voice cut through the noise. So, you're telling me over $200,000 in company funds misused for personal travel, falsified invoices, and backdated approvals? Correct, I said, steady. And your role in this discovery? Routine audit preparation. I noticed irregularities in vendor IDs and began cross-referencing travel expenses. The data spoke for itself. Meredith's eyes softened for just a moment. You built this case alone? With assistance from internal audit? I said, nodding once toward Ben's empty chair. We verified the anomalies independently. Deborah leaned back, muttering, He's cooked. Carter rubbed his temples. I approved half these reimbursements. I just signed off without reading. Meredith shot him a sharp look. Then this board owes Ms. Ellison our thanks. I didn't move, didn't smile, just waited as the weight of it all sank in. The emails, the receipts, the fraud unraveling in real time. Lock his accounts, Meredith ordered finally, turning to Carter. Everything. VPN, card, badge. Already in motion, I said softly. Ben's executing the lockout protocol now. Carter blinked, stunned. You coordinated that already? Yes. Contingency planning, I replied. Silence again. The kind that happens right before a house of cards falls. Deborah straightened her glasses. We'll begin formal fraud proceedings today. Freeze reimbursements, notify compliance, initiate clawbacks. Her tone had gone fully procedural now. Damage control mode. I watched it all like I'd seen it before. Only this time, I wasn't the cleanup crew. Meredith looked back at me. Ms. Ellison, she said, voice sharp as glass. Do you have any additional information this board should be aware of before we proceed? I inhaled, calm. Only that Rachel Marks' last promotion was personally endorsed by Mr. Sandler 2 weeks after their first reimbursed trip to Napa Valley. That landed like a gunshot. Deborah's eyes widened. Carter swore under his breath. Meredith didn't flinch. Understood, she said finally. You've done this company a service today. Then, after a pause that seemed to last forever, she added, What would you like us to do with him? I didn't blink. You could start, I said evenly, by giving me his chair. The room froze again. For 3 long seconds, no one moved, no one breathed. Then Meredith gave a single, sharp nod. Noted. The words hung in the air, solid and undeniable. Noted. Meredith turned her gaze toward Carter. Make it happen. He blinked, disbelieving. Ma'am, that's a VP seat. I'm aware, she interrupted. And from what I see, Ms. Ellison has already been doing the work. Her tone carried that finality that shuts down every argument in a room. Deborah from legal typed something rapidly, probably noting a transitional clause or drafting preliminary suspension paperwork. Across the table, Reynolds finally exhaled, muttering, Well, that's one way to start a Wednesday. The tension broke. Not in laughter, not in chatter, just motion. The quiet kind that happens when everyone suddenly knows exactly what side they're on. I unplugged the HDMI cable, the faint click echoing like punctuation. Carter was still staring at the numbers on the screen, lips moving silently, as if repeating the total to himself. $210,480.71. The reality of his signature on those approvals was sinking in. Meredith stood, adjusting her blazer. Ms. Ellison, please remain available this afternoon. There will be statements to review. Mr. Sandler's access is being terminated as we speak. I nodded once. Understood. She held my gaze a moment longer, something almost like respect flickering behind her composure. You did this cleanly, she said. Precisely. That's how the truth should land, I replied. Meredith allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Then consider this your moment. She gathered her papers and left the room, trailed by Legal and Reynolds, who was already calling someone from compliance. Carter lingered, the only sound the quiet hum of the projector fan winding down. He finally looked at me. You really just ended his career? He said, half awe, half dread. I slid my laptop into its sleeve. No, I said. He did that himself. I just made sure the board could see it. My phone buzzed. Slack message. Ben Carlson. Badge deactivated. Access revoked. Card declined at airport Starbucks. I didn't smile. There was no joy in it, only balance restored. I packed up my files, leaving behind the echo of years spent cleaning up after men like Derek. Outside the boardroom, the hallway was quiet, sun slicing across the polished marble floor. I passed the portraits of past executives, gray suits, confident smirks, the long line of men who'd thought the company was theirs to shape. Then came the office door with the gold nameplate, Derek Sandler, VP Strategy. It was slightly ajar. Inside, everything looked frozen in time. His desk gleamed, perfectly staged. Half-empty glass of Glenlivet, a stack of unfiled reports he'd probably planned to present as his own, a motivational plaque that read, Leadership is Vision. I almost laughed. The irony was too clean. I stepped inside, picked up the plaque, and set it face down on his desk. Then I turned off his lamp, the light flickering once before dying completely. When I stepped back into the hall, it felt different. Lighter somehow, like the building had finally exhaled. I walked past HR, where Rachel's desk sat empty, her plants drooping like they already knew. Someone had placed a "See you soon" sticky note on her monitor. I stared at it for a second before continuing on. My reflection caught in the glass of the elevator doors. Tired eyes, steady shoulders, a woman who'd carried other people's weight for far too long. I pressed the lobby button, hands still trembling slightly, not from nerves, but from release. Downstairs, the air felt crisp, almost unfamiliar. Outside, the sky was a clear, hard blue, the kind you only notice after a storm passes. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Ben. Legal wants your full report. CFO already in damage control mode. And Meredith? She's calling this the audit heard around the boardroom. I let out a quiet breath that might have been a laugh. My revenge hadn't been loud or petty. It had been surgical, strategic. And for once, the numbers, the same ones I'd spent years buried under, had finally spoken for me. I walked toward the parking lot, sun on my face, the sound of my flats against concrete sharp and deliberate. Behind me, up on the 23rd floor, the fallout had already begun. HR would draft statements, legal would file claims, and IT would strip access like peeling off a mask. Derek would land in Cabo, try to swipe his card, and realize the world he'd built on arrogance and falsified receipts had just vanished beneath him. And me? I wasn't the cleanup crew anymore. I was the storm that cleaned the slate. By the time I reached my car, my inbox was already lighting up like a switchboard. Subject lines from every department: follow-up required, audit confirmation, expense lock notice. I sat there for a moment, engine off, watching the flood of replies roll in. Somewhere between the corporate jargon and the nervous politeness, I could feel the tremor spreading. Derek's empire was collapsing in real time. I scrolled through one message from Carter. Ms. Ellison, please prepare an interim operation summary for transition review. Chairwoman Hargrove will connect directly. Another from legal. We'd like your raw files before 3 p.m. Thank you for your professionalism. The word professionalism almost made me laugh. If this had been Derek, they'd have called him decisive. I opened my window, letting in the morning air. It smelled faintly of coffee and asphalt and something else. Freedom, maybe. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from an unknown number. I can't access my account. What did you do? No name, but I didn't need one. Derek. I watched the message sit there, a pathetic little SOS blinking on my screen. I didn't reply. Instead, I turned off my phone and started the engine. Justice didn't need commentary. It needed silence. Back at my apartment, I brewed a real cup of coffee for the first time in weeks. No burnt filter, no fluorescent lights, no fake smiles. Just quiet. I sipped it slowly, staring at my laptop as emails kept coming. Internal notifications, termination forms initiated, compliance reports updated. The machine was finally doing its job, my job. I opened the folder still sitting on my desktop. Sandler Anomalies Final, 17 pages of truth. For a moment, I hovered over the delete button. Then I dragged it instead into archive. Not for revenge, for record. Some stories need to stay written. By noon, the company Slack was a digital whisper. No official announcement yet, but everyone knew something seismic had happened. Channels were full of half-sent messages, unsent drafts, nervous emojis. The kind of hush that falls when a predator disappears from the ecosystem. I scrolled past one thread in #finance. Anyone heard from Derek? Followed by a reply. His LinkedIn's gone private. Another. Rachel's status just changed to away indefinitely. I closed Slack and leaned back, letting the satisfaction settle. It wasn't joy exactly. It was symmetry. For 6 years, Derek had turned my precision into his power. My silence had built his voice. But today, numbers had spoken for me, louder than any accusation could. I thought about that boardroom again, the stunned faces, the sharp inhale when Meredith asked, "Where is he now?" The way they all turned to look at me, finally see me, not as the quiet one behind the spreadsheets, but as the architect of consequence. The sound of my phone vibrating pulled me back. Email notification from Chairwoman Meredith Hargrove. Subject: Interim appointment confirmation. My pulse steadied. I opened it. Effective immediately, you are appointed Acting Vice President of Strategy pending Board ratification. Formal notice will follow. Your leadership today reflected exceptional integrity and composure. We expect to see you at next week's executive session. Congratulations, Miss Ellison. For the first time in years, I let myself smile. It wasn't smug or triumphant, just real. I typed a short reply. Thank you, Chairwoman. I'll be ready. Then I closed the laptop, stood up, and looked out my window at the skyline. Same city, same company, but everything felt new. I thought about all the times Derek had called me too serious. Maybe he was right. Seriousness had just saved the firm $200,000 and cost him everything. Somewhere in Cabo, he was probably sitting at a pool bar trying to log into his email, watching his access bounce back with an unauthorized error. I could almost picture it. The confusion first, then the panic, then the dawning horror when he realized the board meeting was today. Maybe Rachel would ask what was wrong. Maybe he'd try to bluff, say it was just a system issue. But eventually, he'd know. The numbers had spoken. The company had listened. And the woman he underestimated had rewritten the ending. I finished my coffee, straightened my shoulders, and whispered to no one in particular. Game over. That afternoon, the board's internal memo went public inside the company intranet. VP of Strategy termination pending investigation. Interim appointment, Morgan Ellison. No spin, no excuses, just the corporate equivalent of a headstone. The post went live at 2:47 p.m., and by 2:49, my inbox exploded. Messages from coworkers I hadn't heard from in years poured in. Holy hell, Morgan, you did it! About damn time someone caught him. You're a legend. I didn't respond to most. I didn't need applause. I'd seen too many people chase validation only to forget why they started. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was correction. Cold, clinical, overdue. Still, I couldn't help the small satisfaction that pulsed under my skin as I watched the office react in real time. A few brave souls even sent memes. Derek's face photoshopped onto a sinking yacht with the caption, "Off-site investor meeting." HR didn't delete them. That said enough. By 4:00, I was back on the 23rd floor, this time walking into the same boardroom as acting VP. The projector was dark now, chairs slightly out of line from the chaos that had unfolded that morning. Meredith was still there, reviewing printed copies of the audit summary. She looked up as I entered. Morgan, she said simply. No titles, no pretense, just acknowledgement. You handled this cleanly. Not many would have had the courage or the restraint. Numbers do most of the talking, I said. She smiled faintly. Then let them keep talking. The board's recommending full promotion pending compliance clearance. Carter will brief you on transition logistics. I nodded, keeping my expression steady. Inside, part of me still didn't believe it. For 6 years, I'd walked into this room invisible. Now they were offering me a seat at the table I used to prepare for someone else. You'll have support, she added. But I want you to remember something. Precision like yours changes more than balance sheets. It changes systems. Then she gathered her notes, nodded once, and left me standing in the silence she'd just filled with meaning. I walked toward the head of the table, the chair that had always been Derek's. It was still warm from the morning meeting, probably because the room hadn't yet aired out the scent of panic and cologne. I sat down. For a long moment, I just stared at the polished surface, at the faint ring of a coffee cup he'd left behind. I didn't touch it. Instead, I opened my notebook and wrote 3 words. No more silence. When I left the building that evening, the city lights had started to flicker on. The air was cool, sharp, electric with that late autumn energy that always feels like transition. I walked past the front desk, where security was quietly deactivating Derek's parking pass. The guard, Luis, gave me a knowing grin. "Long day?" "Longest," I said, "but a good one." He chuckled. "Bet it was." I stepped out into the parking lot, sky deep purple, the hum of traffic echoing like applause I didn't need to hear. My car sat under a street lamp, the same one I used to park beside while rehearsing Derek's talking points before every audit review. Now I didn't need to rehearse anything. I was the one writing the notes. Before driving home, I checked my phone. One last message, this one from Ben Carlson. He called me, said he's stuck at the airport, card declined, no return ticket. Guess karma flies coach. I actually laughed. The kind that comes from exhaustion and vindication all at once. I replied, "Then let him enjoy the layover." I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat, started the car, and merged onto the highway. The city glowed behind me. Glass towers, office floors still lit with the ghosts of ambition. For the first time, I didn't feel buried under them. I felt above them. The system hadn't beaten me. I'd learned its language and used it against itself. And in that quiet stretch of road, where taillights blurred into streaks of red, I realized the truth. Revenge isn't loud. It's methodical. It's a spreadsheet. It's a slide labeled Executive Expense Irregularities, Q3. It's the click of a projector before the world changes. And it's the calm of walking away from the fire you set with data and patience. I drove home, the skyline fading in my rearview mirror, and for the first time in 6 years, I didn't feel small. I felt seen.